Why do white people undercook meat? I think the question has been pretty much answered. Just wanted to add something FYI. Undercooked meat is not only a white or Western custom. In some parts of Ethiopia, for example, it's very common to eat raw beef. It's even considered high esteem or masculine. I guess because 1. You dare taking the risk, and 2. Because you can afford it, so you must be somewhat wealthy. The best, most expensive part of the meat is usually used for this. Hello. I am white. Normally I only ever see people eat steak, pork, and fish undercooked. In cuts like steak, all the dangerous bacteria lives in the outer part of the cut. So just searing the outside and getting the core to at least 120 degrees will be safe to eat. This is also known as medium rare. Cuts like chicken, however, should always be cooked well because the bacteria and viruses are normally deeply penetrated. Also, ground meats should always be well done, especially if it's pre-ground, because bacteria and viruses are more dispersed through the meat. This is also all dependent on the quality of the meat. If you're getting meat from unreliable sources or sick animals, the chances of catching something increases. This is why in places like Japan, where sushi and uncooked fish are a common delicacy, because the quality of the fish is high. I hope this makes sense. The last time I was in Abuja, Nigeria, I asked what kind of meat is in the meat stew that was being served in my hotel restaurant, and I was assured it was in fact meat. It very much comes down to the conditions in the meat supply chain. In Europe and the West, there are stricter conditions to ensure lower rates of bacteria in the supply chain. That's not to say the rules don't exist on my home continent of Africa. They are just harder or nearly impossible to ensure. Similarly, when traveling in Africa, I insist on no ice in my drinks and only drink bottled water, opened in front of me or by me. Calculated risk. There are 2 more levels in your stages, though only one matters. Medium rare. This mid-range is 130 to the power of 0F. I'm American and I fit the stereotype of not knowing the conversion to centigrade. And 140 to the power of 0. Unlike chicken and other fowl, which we do cook to medium well. 165 to the power of 0F. Beef is a dense cut of meat in which E. coli and salmonella only reside on the surface of the cut. So searing the outside is how we kill off the bad germs and parasites. Cooking to an internal temp of 135 to the power of 0. You will not get sick. The exception to this is ground beef, minced beef in some areas of the world, because the outside is mixed with the inside. Safety-wise, we should all have burgers medium well or well done. Hope this helps. I dunno why you think it's a white thing. I'm not even convinced it's an American thing. If you follow basic food safety guidelines, the risk drops as close to 0 as is possible. Since you specified steak, let's go with that example. When stored safely, beef isn't going to have anything inside it that's a pathogen. It's the outside you have to worry about. Even when cooking extremely rare, aka blue, the temperature and duration of contact is enough to kill any of the pathogens currently found on beef. Therefore, there are no health risks beyond any that exist for eating beef at all. Unless you grind the beef, which isn't a steak, and falls outside this example. The cooking stages aren't about pathogen killing to begin with. Blue, rare, medium, medium well, and crispity. I made the last one up. Are about how much the proteins have been cooked, not the pathogens. Each of those states can be approximately linked to an internal temperature. This is separate from doneness and can be directly linked to food safety since the combination of temperature and time determine what pathogens would be killed or weakened enough to prevent illness. Unfortunately, Americana has a major problem in both chicken and pork with pathogens being endemic. So we have to deal with the internal temp being high enough for the right amount of time to ensure pathogen risk is minimized or eliminated. By those standards, you will end up with the meat more cooked by default. If those pathogens weren't present, you could have a nice medium rare pork chop in safety. Now, as far as why anyone would want to eat meat that is less cooked, that's personal preference. But it is a fact that the longer meat gets cooked, the more the proteins turn into a dense, difficult to chew mass. Well done is simply the point at which there's no return. You cook any longer and you end up with a brick. Exaggerated for giggles. The less meat is cooked, the less proteins change, depending on the exact cut of meat. That degree of change influences not only texture, but taste. But there's still a wide range where the taste change isn't detectable, but the texture change is. Put simply, less cooked equals easier to chew plus flavor closer to raw. For some specific cuts of beef, cooking beyond medium rare destroys flavor. You get a nice fillet and cook it too well, you've got a flavorless rubber in your mouth. Other cuts are better eaten at well. Some even benefit the most from prolonged cooking. Now, you may or may not enjoy the texture of meat that isn't cooked to well done. Nothing wrong with that. Personal taste is king in the kitchen. But regardless of what you like or don't like, there is difference in texture and taste for any given cut of meat at a degree of doneness. Now, a quick note. You're normally going to see doneness and temperature directly linked. This is because a given thickness of a type of meat is going to reach a given doneness after a set time at a given temp. But you can change the temp, then change the time, and get the same doneness. Medium rare is about how done the meat is. Regardless of how you got there, the internal temp is going to be in the same range for all medium rare meat of the same type. But that's not what defined the doneness spectrum to begin with. It's a side effect of cooking for the end state rather than the origin. The TL doctor is, it's safe. You're just not used to it. Most of our meat comes from large-scale processing plants that are held to standards that minimize the risk of pathogens. As a result, national agencies have determined that eating certain types of meat at a lower level of doneness is generally safe. It's such a low risk it's worth it. And there are more than 3 ways to cook steak. Once you work your way through to rare you want to try a blue fillet or steak tartare. Raw minced steak with egg yolk and seasoning. I feel like this may be the Westerner in me, but I think there might be a disconnect between the America rare meat and African well cooked in that food safety isn't really a concern for most Americans. Health standards in general are high and we trust the food we buy to not be tainted, and it almost never is. For reference, I am 23 and have never gotten a food-borne illness. So yes, there is a risk, but in America it's very low. I am not sure if it's the same in Africa, and I don't want to assume the risk for food-borne illness is higher in Africa, but you're the only person I've seen bring this up as a concern. Most health backlash I have heard about undercooked meat is about the cholesterol in red meat, not a worry if it's tainted. So perhaps this is a cultural difference as the perceived risks are different, but yet again I don't know what I'm talking about, just giving my 2 cents. Close your eyes. Try eating steak that is well done. Then try eating one that is medium or medium rare. Many people are mentioning that there is no serious health risk with eating undercooked meat, but Not many people saying why. I am from the Middle East where almost everybody eats thyr steak well done. But I noticed that medium or medium rare meat is usually more tender and has more juice. You might want to compare a well done and a medium steak side by side for yourself and decide if one tastes better. It's a white people thing? It's more succulent when cooked medium, rare when it's overcooked. You might as well be eating a piece of leather. Pathogens don't reach the center of the meat, in some cases, so they don't need to be cooked off. Poultry of any type is always cooked thoroughly. Bacteria is able to penetrate past the surface of poultry, which means cooking it to any lower temperature is guaranteed to cause illnesses. Pork is traditionally cooked well done as well due to the risk of tapeworms. Beef though is considered fully cooked at medium rare. The bacteria that makes us sick lives on the outside. When beef is cooked, we seat the outside of the cut such that a delicious caramelized crust develops. This kills any bacteria residing on the surface. Ground beef is a different story though, and should always be cooked well done. We like the color pink. I'm white and I agree. I don't like rare, med-rare, i.e. undercooked meat. My wife is African American and she and her family like steaks rare. So there's that. The texture and flavor of fully cooked through meat isn't usually considered as good. If the quality of the meat is low or questionable, you cook it fully. But for known quality meat, the amount of risk from illness is incredibly low. You can eat medium steak for life and never have a problem. Sushi and tartare are also things, but require quality ingredients with known good storage. Raw fish and raw beef, respectively. It's not a white thing, lol. I think the easy answer is that it's a cultural preference that is perhaps different than your culture that you may be used to. Undercooked meat, especially steak, has a really amazing flavor profile and can taste way better and be much softer than meat that is fully cooked if done correctly. A single steak can easily go for over $100 at a high-end steakhouse. And it's probably dry, wet, aged over a few months, adding to its value. The quality is based on whether it's prime, grass-fed, or what kind of upbringing the beef had before it ended up on your table. Enjoy it. White person, and I am with you 100%. If I see any red in my meat, I refuse to eat it.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.